this event. Warm welcome to each of you, to everybody. This is the third event actually within our series of online events of the Move It Youth Mobility in a Digital Era conference. But it is the very first digital youth mobility lab. So the lab idea was more to have a format where we can exchange on practices, and we can also discuss about trends, which we have in youth mobility in a moment, and maybe also get inspired. And that's the very first. And our topic today is virtual exchange and blended mobility in European youth mobility. And actually, we have invited 3 exciting guests, which we will present to you a bit later. And before we start, since it is a lab and you should feel like being part of it and also use this space for you. Not everybody is so familiar with Zoom. I explain a little bit to you, but before we start, one important thing, this will be recorded. So the event is recorded, and if you don't want to show up with your video, then there's always the chance for you to switch off the video. You see a black bar in the very bottom of your screen, and there's a microphone which you can put yourself on mute, which we also recommend. Apart from the speaker, nobody should put the microphone on, because we have no background noises. And next to it there is a camera sign, and if you don't want to be here, then switch it off. But of course we find it also quite nice to see who is here, so if you don't have any problems, then switch it on too. And what we also recommend is then a little sign which is participants is written with 2 little figures. If you click on it, there's an extra window opening, let's say, and you can see all the people who are taking part here, all the participants with their names, which they put in, and also a little blue hand as an icon below the list, yeah? And this one we will use if you want to raise the questions in our after the talks, yeah? So get familiar with that one. You can also try it out now if you want. We can then put it down later, our technical support. So this is something you should know. And there's also a chat, little chat icon with a bubble, a speaking bubble. And if you click on that, then the chat is opening. And this is what you can use if you have any technical trouble, because we have a technical team in the back who could help you then via the chat. You could also use it if you have a comment during the talks, no problem. Or if you don't want to speak up with a microphone on video in the Q&A session, you can also write down your questions in the chat. Yes, so we have a team also who is then extracting the questions there and making them available for the moderation. Okay, great. Another thing is that we have, this is a little bit maybe your preference. You can also use in the black window where in the very right you have 2 options. One is the speaker view, where you can click on and you will see the person a bit bigger who is speaking in a moment. So you can try it out, or if you like it more to see who's all there and see this, then you go on the gallery view. Okay, so that's also something you could use. And what else? There is, the speakers have prepared some presentation. So they will then share their screen and go into presentation mode. And that changed a bit for you then. You will see the slides bigger and a bit smaller the speakers. And there you have also an option, if the slides are too big for your screen, you can go in the very center up and go on options and click on fit to window. So the slides will just be fitted to your screen, yeah? And the last thing is this little bar then, where you can see windows with the speakers, is also the option for you. If you click on the little icons there, you can even switch off the whole bar. So if you don't see the slide, you cannot read up to the right, you just switch it off. So you see nobody anymore, or you can switch it on one window, then you see the speaker, or even on more if you want to see 2 or 3, up to you. Yeah. Great. I think that's about the technical issues. Any question you have, please use the chat. That's how we can do that. And now we start with the very content for today. And I would like to share with you the agenda of the event. We are in a moment of the introduction and welcoming by us. My name is Sabrina Appitz, and I'm one of the facilitators of this event and also of the whole series of online events. And after this here, we also want to know who is out there. So who are you? So Evaldus, my colleague, will just have a little flash poll with you and ask some questions. And then we start right into our talks by our guests. So we have 3, as you can see. Aurélie DURAND and Jan Lai and Aurélien DURBEC, but we will also introduce them a little bit more for you at this time. There's then half an hour of questions and answers where you're invited to participate, of course. And then we tell you a little bit about what's coming next and would also like to get some feedback by you. And we should be finished around 3:30. That's it. And now I hand over to Evaldus.
Welcome also from my side. I'm Evaldus Rupkos and I'm colleague of Sabrina, and welcome to this first digital mobility lab, since we are starting now a special series in our series, and today we are looking into virtual youth exchanges and blended mobilities and all these aspects. So we have quite a bunch of people who will present their different approaches to these topics, and we hope to even maybe explore something more with all of you together. And today we also have prepared something so we can see who is here in the group. You might already know it, so please take your digital device or just open a window in a browser and put there menti.com, and then enter the number 8011 8011. So menti.com 8011. And let us know which country you are from. So where are you at right now? We see also cases of double countries, which is absolutely understandable and even something that we would hope for in Europe. So we see many participants from Germany and Italy, also France, Slovakia, Slovenia, Belgium, Greece, Lithuania, Koronistan, that's an interesting country I've never heard of, Alsace, proclaimed as a separate country from now on, and also Bosnia-Herzegovina, Poland, Norway, Finland, Hungary, people from internet. Great, thank you so much. Let's have a look at the second question. So what defines you best? Who are you? Or which of these defines you best? Are you rather youth worker, trainer, youth leader, youth project manager, policy or decision maker, volunteering mentor, researcher, or none of above, and you would rather say you are the other? And we already also see in the chat that there are people who are looking for some others. So please do use the chat for connecting and networking. But before that, click on which of these defines you best. And we see that we have many youth project managers, many people who cannot say who they are exactly, or at least none of the definitions work. Trainers, youth workers are there. Also policy and decision makers. Researchers, volunteering mentors, great, thank you so much. And now we would like to ask you, what question do you have for today? So think about the topic that we are focusing on. So it's virtual youth exchanges and blended mobilities. So is there anything particular you would like to get an answer to? Is there something you are looking for when it comes to these topics? So please pose your question or maybe even an idea. So also our speakers can maybe already get back to that in their presentations. So we see questions on the future, on finances, on languages, how we can promote virtual solidarity via core, good practices, what works, what doesn't work, any other inspiration, how to support learning or use digital in youth work, how to create that special group feeling in a virtual exchange. That's for sure one of the bigger challenges, but let's see, maybe there is some answer here. So keep posting your questions that you have for today. How to meet people for the first time online, how to get them engaged, to participate, challenges, informal spaces, great. And future trends, lovely. Thank you so much. Please finish and post your questions. Thanks for that. So we are closing now the survey. And there are more people who make this lab today possible.
Exactly. There is Agne Rapelaite from visualmind.lt from Lithuania. And I would love if you can say something, Agnes, so that people with speaker view could see you.
Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward for the lab and I'm looking forward for visualizing everything you will be sharing today. Hi from Lithuania.
Hi, this is exactly what she is here for. So she will work during we have a talk and visualize what is actually going on. And we will share first results, let's say, in the Q&A part. So of course you will also get to see what she is creating. And another person is Ricarda Mochilnik, who is our, let's say, master of Zoom, our technical support, and is here to host us and also to be there for you if you have any issue. So just write it down in the chat. Ricarda.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for your support. Exactly. So I think that's it. We also have most of the team here, which I'm not introducing now all by one. Some were part of the breakout sessions. You will also see them. So there are people from the national agency, there are people from IKAB, and also from our international team. So maybe they will raise some questions in the Q&A. I would say we start now, Evaldas.
Absolutely, there is no time to lose because we have 3 very interesting inputs prepared. And the first one today will be by Aurélie DURAND, who is representing Search for Common Ground from Belgium. And she would like to share with us her experience from the big international consortium that was implementing one of the biggest virtual exchange projects in the framework of Erasmus+. Aurélie, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Evaldas, and thank you very much for having me. So I have a presentation here, which I'm going to share with you now. Hopefully you are able to see it now. Is it working? Great. So hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. As Evaldas mentioned, I'm going to present Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange, which is an innovative pilot project which was launched by the European Commission in 2018 for a duration of 3 years. So we are now in the final year of the pilot. This project is meant to expand the reach and the scope of the Erasmus Plus program through virtual exchange, which is used as a complement to physical exchange programs. Its overall aim is to allow as many young people as possible to benefit from a meaningful intercultural learning experience online, and this as part of their formal or their non-formal education. So this initiative was launched with 2 main objectives. On the one hand, it's about fostering mutual understanding and dialogue between young people from different backgrounds. And on the other hand, it's about promoting the development of soft skills. So the idea is to equip young people with the competencies they need to succeed in today's world and to empower them to become active global citizens. The goal is to reach 25,000 participants by December this year, and I'm really happy to report that we have already exceeded 20,000 as of March 2020. And finally, this project is implemented by a consortium of 8 organizations led by Search for Common Ground on behalf of the European Commission. So you may wonder what virtual exchange actually is. So it's quite a unique pedagogy, which has several distinctive features. So as you are aware, the primary focus of many e-learning programs is on content. For instance, that's the case with MOOCs. Here in virtual exchange, the focus is primarily on genuine people-to-people interactions and dialogue. So participants will meet in real time to discuss a wide variety of issues with their peers from different cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds, and they will learn about the viewpoints of others, which will in turn allow them to critically reflect on their own. To ensure that these interactions are truly meaningful and constructive, and that they will help participants reach the intended learning outcomes that were set during the design of the activity, they are all facilitated. That means they're supported by trained facilitators or educators. And facilitators really play a key role in ensuring the quality of the exchanges and that they are meaningful and constructive. So that's why one of the things that we do as part of the project is to train facilitators to really ensure that they get the quality training that will allow them to truly create a climate of trust between the participants. So as you will have understood, a virtual exchange is not a series of unmoderated or unsustained exchanges or interactions as can happen on several social media platforms, but it's truly a design pedagogical process, and a lot of thought goes into the quality of the design. And finally, as you will have understood from the name of the project, it is technology enabled, of course. So as part of the project, we offer a range of ready-made virtual exchange programs that have various thematics. So it can go from countering hate speech to sustainable food systems. Young people may discuss issues such as gender or climate change. So there is a very broad scope here. The duration can vary as well. These activities are open to any young person between the ages of 18 and 30, living either in an Erasmus Plus program country or the Southern Mediterranean. That's 44 countries in total. On the other hand, we also provide training opportunities to build the capacity of educators and of youth workers to use this learning methodology and to design their virtual exchanges. So we've been working with youth organizations to either offer existing ready-made activities to their members or to develop a youth project with other partnering organizations. which is also an opportunity to bring a more international dimension to their programming and to use this quite unique methodology to enrich their programming. So why is this a unique pedagogy? That's because first, the learning is experiential. So young people are not just learning about things, but the idea is really to make them experience how to be comfortable and to collaborate with people who have different ideas and backgrounds than theirs. So that means they can build empathy and other intercultural competencies while they engage constructively with difference. The emphasis here is really on the process. I've mentioned the word trust earlier in this presentation, and that's because these exchanges happen in a community of trust. So we provide a space where young people learn to express their own views. They learn to listen, and they really feel heard, and they feel that their voice is respected. So that helps them develop the confidence to think critically about their own perspectives, and it really empowers them to lead the dialogue and to co-create knowledge based on their own experiences. So they're really drivers of their own learning experience, and they draw their own learning path. So that's how experiential learning and the community of trust help us ensure that we're adopting a learner-led approach. I would also like to emphasize that this project is a very highly scalable one, which is one of its key powers. So it really has the potential to reach large numbers of participants. And it's also a very inclusive approach. So it brings intercultural opportunities to young people who may not have access to other types of exchange and to, for instance, physical mobility programs due to a variety of reasons. So they can be financial or practical. It can be due to security, the issue of getting a visa, or simply because young people may be afraid of leaving their country. The second strength that I would like to emphasize is the demonstrated impact of the project. We have collected a wealth of M&E data that shows evidence of the project's potential to foster the development of soft skills and of employability skills among participants. For instance, over 80% of participants have developed their ability to work in a culturally diverse place, and over 3/4 have improved their digital competencies. We also have over 70% who built meaningful relationship with peers from other regions. I'm not going to get too much into the numbers, but we do have a very strong impact that is demonstrated by our M&E data. And I encourage you to read our impact report if you want to learn more about this. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not encountering some challenges. I would say that the biggest challenge here is retention. But this is a challenge that is shared by most forms of virtual learning, especially when they're free, which is the case here. So it's an issue of online education in general, not just an issue that targets this, this project. So to mitigate this, this problem, we have found that strong institutional support and engagement is really key here to make sure that the learning does not happen in a vacuum. So that's what we make sure to engage educators and youth workers to make sure that learners are encouraged and supported. And we also support the integration of the activities into the course curriculum. So that's why, while we do believe that virtual exchange is very valuable as a standalone activity, it has its own value. We also think that a blended approach can be optimal to ensure a maximum engagement and a maximum retention amongst young people. So we really encourage institutions and young people to use these opportunities in combination. So either before a physical mobility or afterwards, to prepare young people to engage in these physical mobility projects, and where they can activate skills that they've developed during virtual exchange experiences, or afterwards to extend their experience and to enrich their physical mobility experience. So I believe my time is up now. So I would like to thank you very much and to invite you to visit our hub, where you will find more information about Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange. And you will also find a number of resources that you might find interesting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Aurélie. And we see quite a lively discussion going on here, so you can have a look at the comments. And I will raise some of the questions now, since they are very specific to your presented project. And one has been the question about the age limit, because you were mentioning that participation is allowed only starting of 18 years. So is there a concrete reason for that? And also connecting with the age of those who are facilitating, is there any limitations over there?
Yes, so the minimum age was set by the European Commission, and part of the reason is that we are targeting young people who are either in higher education or who have finished their primary education and maybe looking for other opportunities. There is also, you're probably aware of eTwinning, which caters to younger participants and caters to schools. So that's why we don't go below 18 years of age. In terms of facilitation, facilitators can be over the age of 30, but they do have to be at least 18 years of age.
And can you say something also about the languages? Because we suppose that there needs to be one basic language that the participants share. So how do you work with that?
Yes, so as we are working with Erasmus Plus program countries and with the Southern Mediterranean, we offer activities in English, French, and Arabic. So to be able to cater to a wider audience.
Great. So that also means that only people who are available to speak in any of those three languages are then also joining the circles, right?
Yes, but it doesn't mean that you have to be to have an exceptional level of English or French or of Arabic to join these activities.
Absolutely.
I would also like to point out that when the youth organizations are developing their own activities, they may choose to also use other languages in their course material. The facilitation that we're providing will be in one of these three languages, but if you want to use program material in another language, that's of course totally fine.
Well, sadly, we did not have the time to get into detail on the possibilities that your consortium also offers for other organizations to implement their own projects. There is this opportunity, right? And maybe we can just give a hint that you should read about that later on. And last question, which is quite important, I have the feeling, for this particular community here, the question of experiential learning and the way how you understand it, and you know, there is also a lot of discussion about experiential learning in nature, and of course this is something else, but can you just give us an example how this experiential learning happens in terms of your project?
So it happens in different ways, but to really quickly summarize it, participants may have to read or to watch some materials about a certain topic, but the idea is not that they will just receive this information. This information will only serve as a basis for their discussion. So they will be encouraged not only to exchange about their own experiences pertaining to the topic, but also if there are any questions, The answers will not be brought by the facilitators. Participants will be encouraged to look for the answers themselves, to really collaborate to find the answer if there is one, or to find more information about the topic they're discussing.
Great. So I think what could also summarize it is just experiencing, and that's what is meant by the experiential part, maybe the dialogue, because in most of the cases you're also working with the countries that are, or with people who are coming from very conflict experience, and through this kind of a way, through experiencing the dialogue, in talking about these quite complicated topics in a very well facilitated and meaningful framework that makes this kind of an experience also possible already only by just, talking to each other in the way. Great, Sabrina, we have also more examples that are awaiting of our attention.
Yes, thanks Aurélie. There's more question out there. Have a look in the chat if you are able to, and if not, we collect these questions and they will just be transferred in the Q&A part, yeah? And some already asked for some example sharing experiences. And this is, of course, we have thought about it, and this is why we invited Jan Lai. And we are very happy to have him here. He is himself a facilitator in education, and also non-formal education, of course, and also a trainer with a strong interest in digital tools. He is a member of Associazione NUR, an organization in Italy, but also a member of the International Youth Work Trainers Guild, as you probably have seen in the program. And he is one of the first ones, let's say, since the pilot of the infrastructure of the Erasmus Plus virtual exchanges are out there, who, I don't know if coincidentally or however you will tell us, just tried it out already himself a long time ago, a long time before Corona, and we are happy to hear about your experiences, Jan.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thanks everyone. I'm really happy to see a lot of friends here, and I do have a little bit of a mic effect by looking at the number of the people today with us, but I hope that my PowerPoint will help me in making this as smooth as possible. So I'm going to share also my presentation. Please just eventually confirm that you can see it. Okay. So our project that we had the chance to mix with the virtual exchange experience was a long-term partnership, a long-term training course, starting from an idea of Breakthrough Foundation from Netherlands and Think Forward from UK, and our association in Italy, Associazione NUR, applied for the grant. It was a PA Action 2 project with 12 different partners from many countries. When we submitted the project, we had no idea at all of possibilities of organized and supported virtual exchanges. The project was then approved, and in early 2018, we started planning things. The problem was that when we planned it as a long-term training course using the classic idea of mobilities, and we planned 3 mobilities to happen, but our NA said that that was a little bit too much. So the content of our project, we needed to make it fit into only 2 mobilities, and that was not exactly an easy fit. And that's when we got to know about the possibility of the Erasmus Plus virtual exchange. Me and Sandra van der Kraft from Breakthrough applied for the training for facilitators. And in the end, we managed to implement actually 5 different sessions of virtual meetings in the project. It was really weird for us, and I probably can also say it was not the most common thing also for the team supporting us from the consortium leading the pilot phase, because up until then, basically, most of the project, all of the projects have been focused on making virtual exchanges in the academic and higher education field. So we were the first youth sector project to try this experience. And I was asked to look for some meaningful picture representing what we did. And all I could come up with, besides the pictures from the residential trainings, was this, which is a picture that everybody has come to know quite well in the last 3 months. It's probably not even so cool to put it anymore on your Facebook wall. But 2 years ago, that was something different. You could probably tell if you could zoom in from the face of Booz, my friend and colleague in the project. Well, anyway, for us, it was something definitely never tested before, and not with that number of participants, because even the training for facilitators was with groups of up to 8 participants. I saw in the chat that there were requests for practical examples. Well, I don't know if Pathways would be the best project to give these practical examples, because we did not have any previous experiences that we could look up to. We did not have any models, so we had to kind of invent how we would do our active and participatory methodologies online. We were supported by the Uni-Collaboration team, which is one of the partners of the consortium running the pilot phase. But also for them, it was something very new. And actually, we were kind of speaking 2 different languages. So some of our requests, some of the things we wanted to try were hard to visualize for them, and vice versa. So maybe at the beginning, we started using shared written documents where all the participants could contribute. It was not so exciting or not so engaging. But all in all, the process and the participation of our participants have been constant and very, very good through all the project. The first exchange was before we actually physically met, and it helped a lot in making connection among the participants as easy and fast as possible. At the end of the project, we were able to go through the whole program, to go through all of the content that we had planned, and we managed to create a very solid group. It became so solid that last month, with some of the participants, we wrote a new edition of the project and submitted in the last deadline. And it was mostly written by them with our support. Now, I know this is not any breakthrough discovery, but it normally, for how good a group in your training might be, to be in contact after 2 years and be very active and collaborative with most of the group, at least in my experience, is not a very, very common feat. They even asked for a new virtual exchange this last March, after more than a year from the end of the project. But I think what Pathways represented was a very good first test. And the outcome of it was so encouraging that we started sort of taking it around in a European tour, sort of. So we presented the results and the process of it in Rome, in the European Academy Youth Work that was held for the first time in Slovenia last year. through online seminars in Brussels, and very lately at the end of February, in the days when things started closing down in Italy, in Vienna at the conference about digital youth work. This tour, let's say, these efforts in explaining why we were so excited about the experience was not very easy to, let's say, in collecting very enthusiastic response, because in our field there is, or there was, I should say, a little bit of a resistance, saying that the virtual online, it's missing the group and personal interaction among participants, as if that could only happen through a physical contact. I think that there would be a bit of a, that has been a bit of a narrow-sighted position, also because the position of the Commission itself, it's very clear that virtual exchanges should complement making it blended experiences and not substitute that physical mobility. The result of this sort of negative reaction has been that we were not able to challenge more, or challenge as much as we would have loved to, the academic world strong focus of the pilot phase. Or at least we were not able to provide enough critical mass of data from the youth sector to adjust the format to our needs. My last slide is looking toward the near future. Of course, what happened in the last months changed a lot of reactions and approach toward it. I do believe that blended experiences, mixing online and physical mobility, can only enrich the personal learning path of the participants, the interaction among all of those involved in a project, and even, of course, the intercultural experience. The thing is, I don't see it as a challenge, I don't see it as a risk. I don't believe it's going to substitute the traveling. I think it's a win-win opportunity. Of course, it's not easy. We've all seen it in the last months. It's full of challenges, tech not working, bad luck, bad connections. But after all, I believe that what we preach is to leave the comfort zone. So maybe we should, walk the talk. And this is pretty much it about my presentation.
Great, thank you, Jan, for your example. And I think that's is a great follow-up on many questions we had, and that what Aurélie has opened. I would also like to draw your attention of the participants that in the chat, Aurélie and other speakers will be also getting into your questions, because not everything maybe will be available or possible to answer in the discussion. There are some very technical aspects and some links, so please have a look there and you will find some of the answers over there. We will now collect the questions, and we will raise them at the end of the third input, so we can get into the discussion right away. And that's why I would like now to invite Aurélien DURBEC, who is representing the IKAB, which is the Institute for Applied Communication Research in Non-Formal Education from Germany. Aurélien, you have something special for us to present.
Thank you, Ivaldas. Yeah, I have something very special. Now, I will be talking about a tool for blended learning we've been creating with partners. Let me first put up my presentation. Oops. Is this working?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay. My name is Aurélien DURBEC. Thank you, Evaldas, for the presentation. I'm working at the IKAB Bildungswerk e.V. in Bonn in Germany. And I'm here speaking in the name also of my institutional partners in France, Fondation INFA, and in Tunisia, Club Culturel Ali Belaouin. And I will be speaking about mobiyouth.org. This is a tool for blended learning in youth mobility projects we developed during a strategic partnership co-financed by Erasmus Youth In Action Key Action 2. But first of all, our context of work. What we do are mainly bilateral, trilateral, and multilateral youth exchange projects. These are one-week seminars, and our focus, our target group, are young people with fewer opportunities. And our main focus is citizenship education. What we say, what we want to do is to democratize democracy. And to democratizing democracy belongs the development of intercultural competences by young people and everyone in the society. We also do trainings in the field of international youth work, but I won't be speaking much about this because this is not the topic of my presentation. Our stakeholders in our projects are obviously financing institutions. Most of our youth exchanges are financed by the French-German Youth Office, OFAGE, DFJV, but also Erasmus Youth In Action. Another stakeholder are our partner organizations. As I said, we work mainly with young people with fewer opportunities, and that means we want to go and get them where they are and enable them to participate in youth exchange. And that's why we work with vocational schools, youth centers, job centers, and we want to combine non-formal and formal education. And obviously one of the main stakeholders in our projects are young participants. Oh, sorry, I have to close the chat because this is disturbing. I'm sorry. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to hear them during the Q&A or to read them. But this is too much for me if I look at the questions at the same time. Our needs in our context of work. Well, basically research in the field of international youth work has shown, and quite a long time ago now, that a learning process needs more than a physical encounter. Intercultural competences will not be developed just during a one-week seminar. It needs phases before and also after the seminar to enhance the quality of this learning process. And obviously participants need to have an active role within the seminar and in the preparation of the seminar. Based on these needs, what we did until now is we always plan a project together with our partners and participants. We sit on a table basically, and then we separate, and everyone would prepare content and units within their own organizations. Tunisian youth in Tunisia in the youth center, and German youth, for example, in their vocational school. And then they would meet and share these contents during the seminar. And the process, the learning process, would go on after the seminar within their own organization. And there has been a need for support here and also during the part after the seminar. Our partner organizations said we need support to enhance the quality of the preparation phase. And that is why we developed mobiyouth.org. With mobiyouth.org, so now and in the future, what we want to do is still plan a project together with our partners and participants. This is the first step and still is. But then every group and every young participant can prepare content and units within their own organization, but also online. They can already exchange and share online before the seminar. They will still come together and meet and share on the seminar. And the process continuing after the seminar will also be online and in the organization. I'm always speaking about one seminar, but I'm actually thinking of a cycle. It is always a cycle of seminars we plan and we do with our participants, but I'm focusing on one seminar. Some technical aspects now of mobiyouth.org. If you want to have a look, go on the address. It is a very basic WordPress website, but there has been a tool that has been integrated to the website, and this is H5P. H5P is an open source tool to create interactive exercises. And obviously we couldn't do that alone, so we needed technical support, and that has been given by Dalia in France. Basically, our website looks like this, or some part of it. So this is one exercise. Our website is in 3 languages. We work with young people who do not have to speak the language of the others or any common language to participate in our projects. So they speak French or German or Arabic. The website is in 3 languages, also the exercises. We have interactive exercises for linguistic, thematic, and intercultural preparation, and also a wall to communicate, like to post maybe a photo of their preparation, or to post a video they prepared for the seminar, or just to communicate and exchange informally. What we did until now, we've been developing mobiyouth.org since 2008. Back then it was just an idea, but in the end of 2019 and 2020, the beginning of 2020, sorry, we've been testing mobiyouth.org in projects we had, binational and trilateral projects, and we evaluated these testing phases every time. And the feedback we had is following from participants. They said, thank you, it is interactive, it is individual, and it is modern. They said it in another way, but I'm putting it this way here for the presentation. But what they insisted on is it needs time, it needs more time than they had. It needs explanation, maybe more explanation than they had. And it needs also to be better responsive, that is for the smartphone view, which we're still working on that. And youth workers and teachers said it is interactive, it is helpful, so it meets the need they told us they had. It creates also new interactions with their young people, with the young people they work with. But they did say it needs more time, it needs also support. They do not feel like they have the tools to accompany participants in their use of the tool, and they need our support. So this is maybe one of the main feedback, or one of the main evaluation we take and lesson we learned. We did undermine the accompanying or supporting of our youth workers and teachers, and also of the participants in using mobiyouth.org. And the second point we've noticed, this is an analysis more than an evaluation, there is a phenomenon of digital illiteracy. Obviously by youth workers and teachers 40 plus, 30 plus maybe, but also by young participants. It's not because they are so-called digital natives that they will get an interactive tool and use it basically. No, they need to be accompanied and supported also, and it has to make sense. What I would say in the end is it has been a great experience. We see very much added value in blended learning, in a process in blended learning. Go and try it. H5P, WordPress, it's not that complicated. H5P is open source, so you have many content there that you could reuse. Do not undermine the part of accompanying and supporting everyone, participants and youth workers. And if you think of blended learning, do think it with rethinking time and space. It is not obvious to just take the things you would do in presence and throw them on a computer and it will work. You will have to rethink time and space. thank you. I hope I didn't reach more than 10 minutes, and I'm looking forward for the Q&A.
Exactly 11 minutes. Thank you so much. And now, before we go into questions, and I would like to remind you that you can do both. You can chat or raise your hand and then ask the question with the camera and microphone on. So before we go in the questions, a little energizer. So let's move our shoulders and let's have a look around. What do we have here around on our tables, on our balconies, here in our rooms? Be careful about the texture and color of what you see around yourself. And now you will need to find something that is of a specific quality I will mention, and you might need to stand up and go and touch that particular thing. When you do touch, get back to the screen and I will tell you something else. Okay, so touch on blue. Okay, I see many blue colors around. Very good. Since we are here in the colors, yes, tempos, many different blue things. Now, a more challenging task, touch on orange. I'm sure people from IKAB it's not so hard to, many orange things, many IKAB publications, lovely. Great. And now for the end, ready? Touch the tip of your nose with both fingers. Great. Thank you so much. So Sabrina, do we have any questions? Is there something to discuss?
Yes, I would say you still have the chance to raise your hand in order to that we just ask you to open your mic and just ask the question yourself. Yeah. For this, you raise up the blue hand, click on participant, and you will find it. But let's go back because there were a few questions left. Aurélie already tried in the chat to answer them. But I will still go back because there's one more open, I would say, and maybe that's a good question going back to you, Aurélie, since you started. And in the meanwhile, we collect the hands. What is actually, until now, the impact you recorded and maybe some lessons learned?
Yes, so we have seen a very strong impact on young people, and that's both on the skills development and on the attitudinal change side of things. If you want to see more numbers and if you want to learn more about the impact, I do encourage you to look at our impact reports. But what I can tell you is that by exposing young people to different perspectives than theirs, and by really giving them the chance to engage constructively with difference, we have been able to see a change in their ability to engage with potential coworkers or fellow students, fellow young people, to collaborate on projects. We have seen many who have developed digital skills. Many of them have also developed their language skills. I've seen a few questions about language in the chat, and interestingly enough, we have had a lot of interest from young people who are not native speakers because they see this as an opportunity to develop their English skills because they're aware that they will need that later on in their professional lives. So we do see a strong impact on at all levels, and this is one of the main takeaways also for us. For the lessons learned, I hinted at that a bit earlier. One of our main lessons learned is the importance of institutional buy-in, of institutional support. As I was saying, retention is one of the challenges that we have faced. And we have seen that young people who receive support from either their university, their vocational training center, or their youth organization are more likely to complete the program, to complete the activity, than those who join as individuals, which is also an option. So we have been working to get this buy-in, to get this institutional support. Another thing that I would like to add is the importance of recognition. We are also making sure that this experience is recognized. We have developed our own recognition system, which is a system of badges that are awarded to participants who complete their activities successfully. And we also work with different institutions to make sure that they also recognize this experience. So for instance, we've been working with universities, and we are also looking into other options to integrate these activities into other recognition systems. So I would say these are two of the main takeaways.
Great, thank you so much, Aurélie. We already have a risen hand by Mark Taylor. Please unmute, show yourself and ask, and please address if you have a concrete speaker you would like to answer your question.
Thank you very much. Nice background, Valdis. Very nice. I don't like this green one, Sabrina, I'm sorry, but it's alive, it's alive. Thank you very much for your 3 presentations. I found them very interesting. There was one question I wanted to ask to Jan, please. But also the other 2 of you, I think you're also involved in this, Aurélie and Aurélien. It's a question about how do you have examples of the challenges you had in talking between non-formal educators and formal educators, and how did you overcome that? Because Jan mentioned this as being one of the things which it was difficult to speak to each other about what you were trying really to achieve with this. Thank you.
Okay, I could eventually already give an answer about this question by Mark, unless we're collecting first all the questions about us. Just give me a sign.
Please go on, because so far we have no other risen hands. So.
All right, cool. Then in our case, for instance, it was at the beginning complicated to explain the support team that we had from the consortium that was going to support us in delivering and facilitating the first exchanges. It was a bit complicated to explain the core of our needs, the need for interaction, the differences between our non-formal crazy world from the usual exchanges that they were having or facilitating among students from whatever university. I think we've all been through that when our parents through the years have been asking us, yeah, but what really is your job? Isn't that, I still struggle with that. So you can easily imagine that the first requests we got were like, okay, so we're setting this meeting and we will have to facilitate among 8 participants. And we're like, we're 30. How do we match these 2 things? It's just totally different numbers. So very, very simple, practical things at the beginning. And then because we managed to go through almost a year of experience and 5 different events, things started getting smoother and smoother. And I guess we both learned from each other. And it was really language learning, because all of our jargon in our field, if I speak about the Kolb experiential learning model, maybe in some settings, people would just drop their job. So this was, and I would say the example of solutions was probably reaching a much higher level of flexibility on the organization of the sessions. Maybe that was a key turning point, for instance.
Okay, I think Aurélie also wants to add something on that.
Yeah, thanks, Evaldas. From our perspective, so from the consortium's perspective, one of the challenges is also, well, precisely the institutional buy-in. It's from, and I'm sure that Jan may speak to that a bit more, but it's also been more difficult for us to get youth organizations on board because of more limited means, because there might be more changes than in bigger institutions such as universities. So that's that's another challenge that we faced in this regard.
Thanks a lot, Aurélie. There's another question which goes...
For that, Sabrina, maybe Aurélien would also like to add something on that.
I haven't seen it, sorry.
Thank you. I'll make it short, but this is our work. This is our work working with formal education and non-formal education hand in hand is our work since IKAB was created, basically, before I was there. And there are many obstacles, obviously, in this cooperation, but there are synergies that are obvious to the people engaged in this work. So what we do is we meet twice a year. Well, we could not meet this year, but we usually meet twice a year with the whole network of youth workers from youth centers, job centers, teachers from schools, vocational schools, and so on. And we all meet and plan together the next projects, but also we have a time to exchange. And this is a peer-to-peer exchange that is quite helpful in understanding the added value of this cooperation. So what we do as a strategy to avoid these obstacles or to go above them is to let them meet and talk to another.
Thanks, Aurélien. Before we come to some more examples of activities which work well, I didn't want to lose a question which was already there before. And I think Aurélie was already invited to answer to this question. But if we come back to the mentioned Kolb's experiential learning cycle and also how to do that online, the question goes to you too, maybe, if you want to answer. How is it possible to implement experiential learning online, actually? Aurélien or Jan?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer to that one. Because actually, I don't even think it's, don't get me wrong, but I don't even think that is the real question. Experiential learning is based on doing something, experiencing something, reflecting upon it. I mean, you know, the model, abstraction and new planning, new trying, new making mistakes and new learning. And how that wouldn't be possible online. This is really what puzzles me, because experiences, especially for young people who have a lot of their social life online, I believe that experiences, good and bad, cyberbullying or accomplishments and achievements and so on, are normal online. So actually, on my point of view, if you think about what is experience and you think about what you did in the last 3 months, if that was not an experience, I would say that probably the question would be, the right questions would not be if this is possible. I would say this is possible. And then maybe even not, can you give practical examples? Because I believe that we are in a phase which is a little bit like we were in the youth field 20, 25 years ago, when all we could rely on was maybe the compass and the early kits. And there were not tons of tools, tons of experiences. We had to build a know-how and knowledge base, and we have to do the same now with the online version of the experiential learning. And if we don't, dive into the sea and learn how to swim in this huge sea, because we're afraid of not being possible or making mistakes, then we definitely will not progress. I got today probably one of the worst ever feedback for my job in my career, because last week I ran a workshop that I had been running already, so I was very confident and did some mistakes, didn't take into the due account technical elements and timeline and so on. But that was a learning point. I mean, it was hard, it hurted. That was a learning point, and it's not going to stop me from doing it again. I'm not going to say, all right, shoot, this is it. It proved it's not possible, which was actually the reaction of the participant. He was a skeptical person towards online interaction. And he said, this confirms my skepticism. I'm not going to use computers again for this. And I'm sorry for that. I think that attitude is not going to improve our field. So I would say, let's focus on trying, making mistakes, building the knowledge base together, because we're a huge community and we are very flexible and resilient. So I think we're in the best position for doing that.
Great, thank you, Jan. We already had some questions in advance, and we were going, Elena and Amanda were going into, in my eyes, similar direction of asking very concrete practical tips from your side, and maybe experiences, whether you have been working in virtual exchange format with groups that have been formed before, or did you make them made out of those people groups in the framework of virtual exchange. And then also I will collect now a bit more, so you can then maybe each of you can reply to one of those. And then we also had Elena's question, if you could also elaborate a bit more on what are the dynamics during the process while it's going on in the virtual exchange framework. And then we also have a question from Reinhold that goes also into more concrete practical directions. So what aspects of virtual exchanges young people liked and what they didn't? Maybe that will also give us an answer to a very maybe philosophical discussion that we were just having. So maybe Aurélie, you would like to start?
Yes, so I think that the question about the dynamics and what young people appreciated are linked somehow. One thing that we've seen is that it doesn't necessarily come from young people, but some people have asked us, but how can these exchanges be genuine? They're virtual, they're not real. Well, for participants, just because these exchanges happen in an online space doesn't mean that they're any less real than exchanges they could have with their friend who is sitting right next to them. What we've seen that young people really appreciate is the fact that they are connected with other young people from across the Mediterranean region, from different countries. They really appreciate the fact that they were able to build relationships within these groups and that they were able to address tough questions. One of the things that I really want to emphasize is the role of the facilitators, because they really help young people go deeper. So not just keep the discussion at surface level, not just let them only share their positions, but also really explore their beliefs and their assumptions. So it can create a level of discomfort, but at the same time, it really helps young people have a really rich conversation based on their experiences. So this is something that they really appreciated because they felt that they moved to a deeper level than other conversations they may have had with other young people in the past. And they also feel safe and they feel empowered to share really personal things about themselves and things that they would not necessarily share with even their families because they can be quite controversial. So this is, I think that they really appreciate the safe space and this opportunity to really exchange with people from completely different backgrounds.
Maybe I could answer another question because I'm not really into virtual exchange or online exchange only. I would really like to go into the question of blended learning. But Jan, if you want to go onto the question of the experience on virtual exchange first, you could go first if you want.
Actually, I think our experience was very much a blended one. So, Aurélien, I think you can give a perfect answer that I would also say, yeah, mixing the two things.
Okay. I want to go back to the term of experiential learning. And I just saw a question of Laura about young people with fewer opportunities, if they can participate. And I would just grab this question and answer it, if I may. The way we see it, 1 week seminars cannot be the only circle of experience we think about when we think about the experiential learning. And this is why we, to answer the question, we work only with groups, with formed groups. We want to work with young people with fewer opportunities. Laura was speaking about migrants, young people who just arrived in the country who don't really speak this language yet. Young people that are far away from international youth projects or far away from education in a formal system. And to work with these groups, we go and work with partner organizations. So we basically work with formed groups, and the way we see the learning process that is developed in a seminar, it has to begin before the seminar and it will go on after the seminar. This is not just like a small circle during 1 week, you will learn something and develop intercultural competences and so on. So that is why we say the quality of the preparation phase has to be there, and the quality of the phase after the seminar has to be there also to enhance the quality of the work. And this is why I would say there is a real opportunity there with blended learning. We've been doing blended learning with a piece of paper earlier. We've been doing, as I said, blended learning in the sense that young people would prepare contents and units for the seminar within their own organization and come to the seminar and change and exchange, meet, share, and go back in their own organization, continuing this process. But now we're doing it with online tools also, not only. This is not, we're not saying that the preparation for a seminar could be just individual and only online. The way we work, it has to be also a group preparation and within the organization and within not only the organization of the young people, but within their local life and everyday life. This is very important. And I think this is also what research has shown. Intercultural competencies will not only be developed if you meet people of other cultures and from another country, but it will also develop within your own local life. And this is a very important part of our work. And the question of Laura asking if, young people with few opportunities can participate in these projects. Yes, they do in our project. As I said, we're working with migrants, with young people with few opportunities, and they don't have to speak the language of the others or any other language like English or so on. So the way we work together with our partner organizations, yes, they can participate. If you develop a project in which they can participate, then they will participate in a blended learning mobility.
Thanks, Aurélien. I think the audience is very appreciating your point on how to be more inclusive, and if blended mobility could be a part of that. We can just take one more last question, and Daniel Poli is already raising the hand for a long time. So that will be the last question. There's always the chance to use the chat still, and yeah, also stay in contact. But Daniel, first your question.
Thank you. Thank you for these interesting presentations. My question goes into the same direction as many before, to give more concrete examples. And I want to take out this remark of you, Aurélien, rethink time and space. Could you give us a concrete example where that happened, that you had to rethink it, so that we can really see in your project what was happening? Thank you.
I think you could ask Evaldas and Sabrina, obviously, in preparing this conference, what they had to rethink in terms of space and time. Let me maybe put it this way. We all know this feeling of, I know a method and I really like it and I would like to use it. I know a tool, I really like it. It worked last time, I'd really like to use it. And you go into a training or youth exchange and you use it because you like it. Well, obviously this is not always going to work. And first there are some objectives and goals that you have to define. And I think this is the same problem or the same issue with blended mobility, blended learning or virtual online learning. I saw just in the comments that virtual learning, virtual mobility is maybe not the real good word for that. Virtual, it is not virtual, it is very real. And there is a real notion of time and space in such a conference the way we are doing it right now. But it is a very different one than the one we know in a presence seminar. I don't have any concrete example right now, but I can tell you how much we've been sweating in rethinking time and space, and always adjusting details in the conferences, the trainings, and the youth exchange we wanted to do in blended learning.
Thank you so much, Aurélien. We know that we are opening up quite a big box, and we have only 8 minutes for it to be closed. And I thank you for all of your inputs and giving the food for thought for our further moments in this series of events. So we see that blended and virtual exchanges are something that cannot be seen as an alternative to residential activities, and can only complement that what we have been doing already, and maybe provide some further ways and reach out people, for example, somewhere in Gaza where they never could travel out of the area and get in touch with them. So, and in that experiential learning is possible through dialogue, through maybe also getting into a little conflict which is being professionally facilitated, but this is something that can happen also in the framework of virtual exchanges or exchanges that are happening online. However, we see that there are still limitations when it comes to languages, when it comes to how mobile responsive the tools are that we're using, but there are also other examples that we should have a look at. We saw already some comments on gaming, for example, or concrete games that could be also seen as one of the ways how to ensure that there is digital mobility, or in general there is exchange happening, and that we are reaching the same learning outcomes that we would reach maybe through a residential youth exchange. So I will try to wrap it up in these words, and I think we would still like to hear some more feedback from those who were still not able to speak, and to show you also the outlook to the upcoming days.
Yes, exactly. We would like to know how did you like it this time, and also send us a few words. Therefore, I would ask Ricarda if you could share the poll again with us. Exactly. And there you go on menti.com again, and this time is another code. It's 51526. Just please give in the code. And then you have the first question, which is about how did you like this very first lab in the frame of Move It. And you are asked the three categories. One is the event in general. Then second is the content, and third is the moderation. It's 1 to 5. We wait for a few more. There are 25 now on. Seems that we are on 4, even a bit more, which gives us a good sign that that it really is a format which is needed to get inspired by practitioners and discuss. Great, we have almost 60 now. That is not moving anymore, so I think we take it there more or less. Maybe some people are still trying to get on. If we can have the second one. Exactly, that's also something more where you are able to send a bit more than just a number, what you are actually taking out today. Ideas, new ideas, thoughts, hope, and concerns, which is also nice, but also encouragement just to try out, which our speakers just try to inspire you with. Some people got inspiration, some people got questions for reflection. We have links. Some people like the visualization. Agne is awesome. A lots of ideas, definitely an inspiration, which was also the idea. Experience, then also the fact that online is real. Support, not substitution. For some, it's not so much new. We know that we are quite a diversity of audience here. Some people are quite experienced already, others not. So this is actually the format where we have the chance to share. Exactly, rethink time and space, that inspired you too. New possibilities in these COVID times. Yes, just finish your word to give in. There's also curiosity, possibilities. Some got some new info on tools, which is also great. Thanks a lot. And we have one last one. Exactly. And this is any feedback you have for us, just shared. So we are still planning a few more labs and also a closing event. So we are taking your feedback into account for sure. And I think there's even more events needed like this. Maybe also apart from Move It, some thank yous. Thank you to you too for your contribution. A bit too short for the presentations. Okay, we take it into account. It was stimulating. Breakout rooms for more interaction. Okay. Then also well organized and facilitated. Thanks a lot. More exchange on what works and why. Thanks for the presentations. Yeah. We will definitely have more breakout sessions on the very last. This is also when we talk about the future up to 2030. So you are very much invited to join the 17th. But we take it into account that there's maybe more exchange even needed. There's also some thoughts of ourselves in a moment to to bring up a Facebook group or anything which is needed for you to stay in contact and share even after the events, yeah? Best practices is taking out budget needed from Erasmus Plus. There's also some events coming, Evaldas will share with you in a minute, where you should be part of, because some people of NAs are also part of this. Great, a bit too short, again, a lot of thank you, interactive presentations, thanks to our speakers. Great, thank you. The digital virtualization is awesome. I think it's meant the visualization, thanks to Agne again. Great, please finish your feedback. This is all recorded for us then, and people need definitely a bit more time, it seems, and a bit more exchange. Thanks a lot for all this feedback. And Evaldas, let us know what's coming next.
Before I let you know what's coming next, I also wanted to show you the Padlet link. And maybe Ricarda can just open up the Padlet too, because as you know, we have a open feedback box where you can share your ideas and also see what has been gathered so far. So use it for your information, communication, and exchange. And you can reach the Padlet with a link that I would like now to ask Ricardo to copy paste into the chat, so you can reach it. It's an open feedback box, and you are very welcome to have a look at it, comment also on that what's already there, learn more, add more. We already had many links shared here in the chat, so please do the same and share it in the Padlet, because the chat on Zoom is not being saved. And now let's have a look at what's awaiting of us. So as we said, we are just at the beginning or at the first half of our journey. And today we launched the series of 4 labs, and the second lab will be this Friday. Already at 11 o'clock Central European Summer Time, and we will be looking into something very fascinating, into virtual reality in European youth mobility. And they will have 2 speakers, Felix from Germany, who is an immersive storyteller and creative producer from Now Here Media, and Andrew, who is, for example, a graduate of Oxford University. However, this is not the most important part, but most importantly, he, together with Paul, will be representing Momentum World from the UK. And both of them have very interesting experiences and stories to tell you how they have been using virtual reality in their work. And let's see what we in youth field can also take out of that, and how we could also maybe adapt these kind of approaches also in our work. So we hope that you will enjoy and that you will be joining us this Friday already. Then further labs on social inclusion on 9th of June, and on EU youth programs with representatives from different NAs on the 15th, and the Move It Youth Mobility in the Digital Era series of events will be closed on the 17th, with a closing event where we will be foreseeing the future altogether. And this will include a plenary discussion and workshops where you will be all welcomed to have your part in envisioning the future to come. So join us in chat. I will also add a link to all of the events, and also that what has happened so far. There you will also find the lovely visualizations from the bar camp opening, and now the one that you have seen in creation and in doing by Agnes. So check it out, and we thank you very much for your participation, and see you on Friday.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. I just wanted to mention a last thing. If you need a confirmation for joining these events, or you want a youth pass that is on request, no problem. So this is where you ask Katharina Erbes, who also was here in the chat. And there's also the chance to get an open badge for any of these events. Thanks to Nereus, who is also here. So I just shared the link with you. And if you have any question about that, please do not hesitate to contact him. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.